With my initial review of Persona 5 Royal, I decided against talking a lot about spoilers, so this is going to be kind of a piece-by-piece review of P5R. Today we're taking a closer look at the start of the game, featuring everyone's least favorite man, Kamoshida. Outside of the prologue, which does a fantastic job at setting you up with more questions than answers, as well as giving you a chance to get acquainted with the game's battle system, the story does set your character up with a sense of being unwelcome everywhere. Almost everyone you meet who even knows the slightest thing about you is hostile or whispering behind your back.
You'll be alone at night, but don't do anything stupid. I'll throw you out if you cause any trouble.
When you walk through the halls, you hear people whisper about you, and every time you're given a chance to hear and listen to other people talk, they're usually not saying great things about you. The first person to greet you, without any real sense of hostility, is An. However, immediately after, you're given a sense of unnerve when a teacher offers her a ride to school, with Ryuji dashing after them. Ryuji also greets you a bit aggressively, but he backs down after he realizes you're not in his way. Pretty much this whole opening sequence is meant to set up little pieces, while also making you more and more suspicious of Kamoshida.
Why did you allow a student like him to transfer here? He's already started associating with Sakamoto. You committed the crime of insulting me, the king!
Kamoshida himself, in my opinion, is a very well-written character. That's not to say he's good or even likable, but that is exactly the point. He's so unlikable that I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they really truly do like him. But they also don't deny that he's set up to be that person very well.
As for you, any more trouble and you'll be gone from this school for sure.
A lot of the times people will say show don't tell, but I think showing and telling are both important. Kamoshida's abuses are never shown directly. A large majority of it is implicit in nature. However, the game does such a great job that you never have to once question whether he's actually abusing people. The palace is a manifestation of his awful mind, which lets you see extreme versions of the major abuses that he employs, and the sick joy he gets from doing them. And when you see how his actions affect those involved, it really makes you hate him. He's a horrible person who has been allowed to do as he pleases, and no one stops him, and those who do try to speak up are silenced.
Proving that he's physically abusing us is meaningless. Everybody knows. The principal, our parents, they all know, and they all keep quiet about it.
This unchecked power has allowed him to position himself as the king of the school. He is the leading contributor to the school's reputation, and he lets this all get to his head, which you can see very clearly when he basically says it at the end of the arc.
It's always been like this. All those goddamn hyenas forcing their expectations on me. I'm doing this all for them! What's wrong about demanding a reward for that?
So yeah, I really think Kamoshida is set up perfectly. I really felt like I hated his guts by the end, and I couldn't care less if he died or not. He's not meant to be a character who can seem like they can be redeemed. There are very few attempts, if any, to humanize him at all. And yet you can still see that he's kind of realistic. Some might view him as comically evil, but people who are allowed to just do whatever they want tend to not be great or likable people.
Come, steal it if you can.
Once we do that, the treasure will appear for certain. I think.
Every dungeon in Persona 5 tells its own story. They're wholly unique, and handcrafted static dungeons are made to tell a story of a character. They're essentially both gameplay pieces and story pieces. In this one's case, the dungeon constantly slams abuse and messed up mindsets of Kamoshida in your face. It's rarely subtle, and when it is more implicit, I'm glad it's not showing me anything. There are some more disturbing elements to this dungeon, but for the most part it's pretty straightforward, much like Kamoshida. From the outside, he's obviously not a good person, and the story tells you that so many people know. Everyone covers it up, while he doesn't even try.
What? Don't you dare tell me you don't know who I am.
In that way, a very straightforward dungeon that lets you explore and understand simple mechanics that you'll use a lot more as the game progresses is fitting for him. And part of me wants to say it's not that deep, but this is just all about how I feel. And when you look at some of the other dungeons in this game, it feels like it's intentional.
How about Tilefish Poilé?
Tactile, what?
The first 3 characters you get are obviously more vibrant than most NPCs. You know, you can pick them out pretty clearly in a classroom. Since this is the first arc in the game, you will get to see more Persona Awakenings than you see in the following arcs. They're all pretty satisfying, except for Morgana, who's already had his beforehand. But all 3 of these characters are pretty likable from the start, though I'd personally appreciate the cat not falling in love with the human woman. I don't know, it's a little weird to me, and it doesn't feel like it serves a major purpose in his character. It just kind of feels like the haha mascot needs some weird character trait to make them quirky and silly, when Morgana actually has a pretty interesting arc just by himself anyways.
Hey! What the hell? Oh, seriously? Why are you wrapping this up like everything's all hunky-dory?
Your cast continues to expand as you meet a few side characters that you'll likely get to know as the story advances. And if you're interested in exploring, you'll also probably catch a glimpse of some future important characters as well.
I will confess everything to you all.
The boss fight against Kamoshida is, well, gross. He wolves down the lower body of women to heal. He slurps cognitive on to raise his attack, and he has some really uncomfortable other cognitive beings within his distortion. It's a gross boss fight, and it does make kicking the crap out of him all that more satisfying. When it all ends, everything collapses, and Shadow Kamoshida returns to his real self. In the coming days, you'll see some of the effects that the change of heart has on Kamoshida, until he finally comes forward to confess his sins at school.
Shameful person. No, I'm worse than that.
This is done pretty well, I think. It gives a good understanding of how a change of heart actually affects a person, and it's a pretty satisfying end to a man who's really all too gross to deserve anything less. And the arc ends with your group deciding to continue as the Phantom Thieves. A satisfying conclusion to a great first act, and probably the first 8 to 12 hours of your playthrough.
Now then, this is the official formation of the Phantom Thieves organization. I am thou. Thou art I.
So not only does Kamoshida's arc give you a great introduction to Persona 5 Royal, but it also provides a fantastic story with one of the best, or worst, technically, villains in the game. It introduces set pieces that you as a player are interested in, or me as a player was interested in, and continues to push me forward by keeping me more invested in the overall story by slowly unraveling the mysteries of how you got to where you were in the beginning of the game. I'm happy to say that this arc is probably one of the best the game has to offer. But what do you think of Kamoshida's arc? Do you think it's a really good arc, or do you think you're not really a huge fan of it? Is it one of your favorites, or maybe one of your least favorites? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, and subscribe to the channel for more things Persona related, Atlus related, and JRPG related too. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.